Hey, thanks for stopping by.
So it's always a good time. But I'll do my little intro script here and we'll jump in. So,
Cool.
hello there. And thank you so much for visiting your local Comic Con. I'm Sean, and today Michael has stopped by to talk All-Star Superman. If this is your first time listening or watching, visiting your local Comic Con is a podcast where we normally talk comics in a book club style format. The titles guests and I are reading can be found on my socials at Local Comic Con, well ahead of new episodes discussing them, and new episodes drop every Monday at midnight. For audio listeners, this podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. For those who prefer video, the podcast can also be found on YouTube. Please feel free to follow or subscribe on your platforms of choice. If you like the show and want to support it, I encourage you to subscribe to our Patreon. Subscribing gives you the opportunity to see behind the scenes content, learn how the podcast gets made, and or gain access to resources for both reading and digital creation. Thank you to all who subscribe to this show in any way, shape, or form. I truly appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get started and talk All-Star Superman. How's the intro? Good?
Good.
Good. I
Yeah, yeah.
stumbled a
That
little
was good.
bit.
No, you're
Well,
good.
so I know a little bit about you. But here's my opening question for the guest. How familiar are you with comics, the Marvel DC universes?
Comics, not much, honestly. This was kind of like my first read through, like in my adult life, I would think. Yeah, as a kid, I collected stuff, but nothing like to a T. Like I wasn't following anything or anything. It just like as comics came, like my dad collected a lot, so like as stuff came and went through the house, I would like maybe like glimpse at it, but I was never like reading actually.
What were some of the ones you tried when you were younger, like passively?
Like yeah, I would go to the comic shop with my dad. He'd be buying like whatever, and I'd buy like Teen Titans because like that was coming out like along with the cartoon at the time. So I was like, all right, cool, these are cool.
Yeah,
And
the
like
two, the
I can't.
original, not Teen Titans Go.
No, no, no. Yeah, the original. But yeah, I wouldn't like I couldn't tell you a single storyline from those books at all. Like I don't remember really.
Hmm.
But so yeah, when you came around offering to read along with something, I was like, yeah, cool. Like my first dip into like comics in my adult life and like seeing it and just like seeing how they work because I'm a big fan of like the movies and that all pretty much every other form of the media, whether it be TV, movies. So I follow all that closely. So to get the opportunity to like compare it was a cool one to jump on.
So that gets into my follow-up question usually is, have you read any comics before now? So it sounds like this is like the first one you've read like all
Yeah,
the way through.
pretty much. Yeah.
So you're the one that proposed we read All-Star Superman because obviously this is serving as a big inspiration for James Gunn's Superman that's coming out
Right.
in July, which is interesting. Because especially reading this book, so bit of background on this book. It's written by Grant Morrison. It's drawn by Frank Quitely. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name right. And it was, I believe this book, even though it's 12 issues, yeah, it was released between 2005 and 2008. So usually like a
Yeah,
12,
clock that.
yeah, usually a 12 issue series like comes out, an issue a month and then it's done at the end of a
Right.
year. But this took about 3 years to fully finish. And in that time, it actually won the Eisner for Best Continuing Series around that time. Um, so yeah, it's a DC book. It's not in main DC continuity. It's kind of its own
Right, right.
Elseworld thing, and that's where I feel like it's interesting that this is inspiring the new Superman movie
Hmm.
because I honestly, and I'm sure this is a Captain Obvious statement, but I feel like the inspiration is more going to be in terms of tone as
Right.
opposed
That's what
to
I think. Yeah.
adaptation because yeah, this is a story all about Superman dying. If anyone
It'd be
is,
a bold first movie.
yeah, I mean they've done it before. I
Oh, I
mean,
mean, I don't put past anything past anyone.
yeah, I love those jokes where it's like, can you imagine if they do the Batman v Superman thing again and like first or second
Kill
movie
him.
Superman dies? That'd be
Yeah,
wild.
I sure hope not, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Michael, why don't you give us a little bit of a play-by-play about the book and the series? Just kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the high
So
notes.
sure, it starts out with Superman doing a rescue mission a little too close to the sun. Turns out it was all schemed up by Lex, and it turns out that by getting that close to the sun, it overloaded his cells. That you typically take in solar energy. It's how he gets his powers. But this time around, again, they got overloaded, so now they're pretty much dying and causing him to die. And so he kind of then the rest of the book kind of is just like his greatest hits, like his like almost like bucket lists, just things he needs to get done before to leave the world in a better place without him. And it kind of just almost like I didn't realize it would be like this. It was like kind of like more like each issue was almost a little serialized than I thought. I thought it was kind of be like, the downfall of Superman and everything, but it was kind of just like these little stories where he like learns a little something about the world or a little something about what he's leaving behind. And I thought that was it was not what I expected going into it. And I thought it was pretty cool.
It wasn't what I expected either because, and I know we mentioned this before we started the call, I had seen the animated movie
Hmm.
a few years ago. It's one of those DC movies that, straight to video that, sometimes would play on cable. It was a standalone like all the other like the book. Not like it didn't tie into like the DC animated movie universe or anything.
Right,
I
right.
want to say it came out in like 2009, 2010. Um, and it kind of does the Under the Red Hood thing, where I don't know if you've seen the animated Under the Red Hood movie,
No, I
but
haven't.
so the Under the Red Hood comics kind of are a little all over the place in some areas because it has to tie into main DC continuity. So at one point, Batman's like asking Green Arrow how he came back from the dead to think about how Jason came back from the
Oh,
dead.
okay.
While in the movie, they just cut that out. The movie's a more streamlined version
Right,
of the
right.
comic. And that's really what the movie is after reading this book. And I'll get a bit more into it. What was your overall thoughts on the book?
It was good. I enjoyed it. It was. I think it's a good, as again, a first read or like just for intro to comics. It's a good isolated story. I think like I'm someone going in who kind of knew, like, just had a background in comics and like comic logic and stuff like that. So it was pretty easy to like kind of just. There's some like that's some parts that kind of like tripped me up, and I was like, all right, let me go flip back a couple pages, read that again. And I was like, but I think overall it's a good like contained story, and I think I recommend it. It's if you're a fan of Superman, it kind of just exemplifies Superman in a pretty good way. And anything you want to know or learn about Superman and what he stands for, I think it's a great read in that regard. The plot can get a little like funky, but like I think like character moments are like kind of more important than the plot in this case. I feel like his relationship with Lex is pretty interesting in this one. Like just like a lot of the issues where like Lex is just talking, especially that one where he's like interviewing him in prison, like that was a standout. Just
That's
kind
my
of like you
favorite
just
issue of the series.
yeah, because like you just learn about Lex and like why Superman just bothers him so much. And like it's just I
hmm
think in that regard was kind of cool. Some stuff it's very like I think it's very comic booky. Like it's like it can get into like that goofy silly area of it, and it's like okay, Jimmy Olsen's turning into Doomsday. That's all right,
See, and
but
this
like
that might be my hot take. I think this book was good, more on the okay side, because
yeah,
stuff like that slowed it down for me.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I was like going into it, I was reading something like All-Star Superman is the best Superman book you can read. And like again, I have no frame of reference for that, but it was just like I kind of got to the end and I was like, yeah, it was good. It was a good Superman story, but it was like
A little
I hope this isn't the
overhyped.
best that's out there.
Yeah.
So,
And so, yeah, so, my thought was it was a little overhyped.
definitely.
And however, to your point, I definitely think this is a great jumping on book if you've like never read
Definitely.
comics before, because it was a very easy read, which I appreciated. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
some of the books we've read on here, like especially for me, because admittedly I'm reading a lot of these books last minute because I'm like I have
Mhm.
time during the work week, and
All right.
then I'm finishing the book pretty much when we're about to record. And so, I appreciated that it wasn't like very text heavy or anything. Like you
Right,
can
right.
just breeze through this. The artwork is beautiful, the
Yeah, the art's
coloring,
great.
and like especially like issue 11 where he's fighting Solaris and it's just
Hmm.
pages of just action. Like
Yeah.
very easy to jump into and get through. And looking at the issues, so issue 1 is the Sun rescue mission where he finds out he's dying.
Right.
Issue 2 is he takes Lois on a date night for her birthday.
Hmm.
Uh, and then that ends with the reveal that he made her special potion to give him give her his powers for a day, for a full 24 hours. So that's the next issue is, Lois and Superman spending the day together as basically Superman and Superwoman. Um, and so those first three issues, comparing it to the animation, that's exactly what the animation starts off with
Okay.
and adapts. Issue four is where we get a little bit of what the animation cut out, and issue four is the first issue that I was kind of like, okay, this is what we're doing. So issue four is the discovery of black kryptonite, and
Right, right.
Superman turns evil, and Jimmy Olsen has to stop Superman with the backing of Project, the science company that Superman saved in the first issue. And he
Right.
takes a Doomsday injection, becomes Doomsday, fights down Superman. That's like the first issue. I was like, okay, I can see what the movie trimmed off. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
issue five is my favorite issue. Um, with it, it's the interview with Clark Kent, so Superman, as he's dying, going to interview Lex Luthor, who has
Hmm.
now been put on death row for crimes against humanity, which it is funny. So you've seen like the original 1978 Superman, right?
I
With
actually
Christopher Reeve.
haven't.
You haven't? Okay. So a joke in that movie is that like Lex Luthor, like the whole thing, he wants to like sink California as part of a real estate scheme.
Okay.
And in this book, like the way they condemn Lex to death kind of feels a little bit in that vein, obviously, or at least it's implied that it was just part of Lex's grander goal of killing Superman in the end. But the way the planet gets him and puts him on death row is they reveal that he may had plans to poison the sun or cause a solar flare that
Hmm.
would increase heat and everything, increase droughts. And he had apparently bought up and privatized stocks of water and fresh water for people to use.
Okay.
So that's how he was going to profit off of his plan to kill Superman, which in hindsight feels like something he was just doing to like get caught so that he
Right,
could
right.
do his big grand plan of like
Hmm.
whatever, getting his final drink. It got a little convoluted for me. Um, but issue five I love because it's really that philosophical conversation of Clark, aka Superman, wants to see the good in Lex. He wants to like really understand while
Right.
they're
Of course he
both
does.
on while they're both on their last legs, like what can we do to like change this relationship? And I love that moment where he says, I feel like you and Superman could have been good friends, talking to you
Yeah.
like this. And Lex is like, we shouldn't have to rely on an alien. Bah, 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 bah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so that's my favorite issue. Issue six is again not in the movie. It's a flashback to Superman and the death of Pa Kent. But then there's some time travel where
Yeah.
Superman was there. I didn't fully understand that because like there's a Superman from the year 4500, but apparently that's the Superman who's dying. Didn't make sense to me. Then issue seven and eight is Bizarro World, where
Yeah.
Bizarro World starts invading, and also not in the movie, um,
Okay.
not there. And that those two issues drove me crazy because of all the Bizarro speak. Because I was just kind
Yeah.
of,
I was reading speech bubbles like three, four times, and I'm like, what is he trying to say here? And
yeah.
like, I get it. Like, you're trying to do the cool thing of like, they talk backwards and opposite. And it's like, all right, but at a point, it's like, I still got to read this. Like,
Did you get to the point that you just kind of started skimming over it, and you're like, I
yeah, I'm
don't
like,
think
I'll get
this
the
is
main idea.
important for me
Yeah.
to read. Um,
Yeah. I just like, I feel like it wasn't even like following any rules. Like, they were just throwing no in a lot. And I'm like, okay, like, sure. I kind of get what they mean. Moving on. Like,
Yeah. And to get to your earlier point of like, it feels comic booky, like the fun, silly
yeah.
aspect of it. Those were the two issues that I really think of in terms of like comic booky,
Hmm.
where it's like, okay, haha, they're talking backward speak. Superman has to start trying to figure out how to talk to them and talking backwards. But a big thing with this book is if this book is going to tell Superman realizing he's dying, what, like you said, what's the bucket list of Superman? What's all the things
Right.
he's going to want to do before he goes? And like part of that is, spending this special day with Lois on her birthday and all this. But then we get to the bizarre issues. I'm like, wow, we're giving two issues out of the
He's
12
spending 2 days on
to
Bizarro World. Okay.
yeah. All right. And so issue nine is these Kryptonian travelers. wind up on Earth while Superman was stuck in Bizarro World, and they've like made changes. So Superman interacts with them. They have different philosophies on how Superman should like be more commanding with humanity and force Kryptonian values on them.
Hmm.
Issue 10, I would say, is like if I were to not say issue 5 is my favorite, issue 10 would be the one because
Okay.
that's like the last, day or two of Superman. He's
Right,
trying to
right.
get everything done, his bucket list. And that's where you get that great moment that a lot of people bring up Superman where he prevents the person from jumping off the ledge.
Totally, yeah.
Like, great issue. And then issues 11 and 12 are like a solid finish to this book. So, like, the movie trims off the fat, if you will, of issues 4, 6, 7, and 8. And the way they do it is instead of Superman and Bizarre World and everything, they, Professor Quintum, who's the guy that kind of reveals to Superman that he's dying and everything, he's in the movie a lot less. Like, I did
Oh, okay.
appreciate the book, him being in it more, because, like, okay, this guy is more of a fleshed out character. He's more
Right,
to
right.
do here. Um, in the book, he helps Superman figure out where they can take Kandor, the bottled city from
Right, right.
Brainiac. Um, in the movie, Superman just kind of flies off with the bottled city, is like, by the way, I found a
So,
planet for them. And when he comes back from that trip, that's when he finds the Kryptonians have like been on Earth for 2 months.
oh, gotcha.
So that's kind of how they cover it up, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I so that's kind of where I was at. I feel like there was some fat on the book that the movie trimmed off to make it more of a streamlined story, similar to what Under the Red Hood, the animation movie, did.
Hmm.
So that's my overall thought on the movie versus the book and like the series. I thought the series was really good. I liked when it got into the philosophy and the ideology of like what Superman would do if he knew he was dying,
Right.
and same with like the back and forth with Lex Luthor. I just those extra issues, I was like, all right, I think I can see why the movie did away
Like
with
when they had
these.
to try when they tried to have like quote unquote fun, and they were like,
Hmm.
let's put him in like these wacky situations, and it's like, no, like if you, I don't know, like it just,
And if it
I
was
get
in
it. I
an
want to see like
ongoing
Superman, like
Superman book, it would have made sense
sure,
because you get those like, ah,
yeah,
let's take a break from the overarching story. Let's have fun.
right,
But, when you have like a 12 issue series like this, which probably at the time, I haven't done a lot of research into this book. Maybe they
hmm,
didn't know they were going to go for 12 issues, maybe
yeah, who
because it went
knows?
from 2005 2008. So there had to be delays in there.
Hmm.
Um, but, it was just a bit interesting that some of the issues, some of the real estate was put to
Hmm.
Bizarro World.
Right.
So what did you particularly like about the book? Like what were some highlights for you?
Like you said, the art was great. I think Superman himself was like, I was reading this and like I don't have, it's kind of weird, like my background with Superman, it's like I was a kid growing up in America, like I know who Superman is, like so it's like it's that wasn't the issue, but it's like I told you earlier, I didn't watch the movies, the original movies. I didn't really watch any cartoons, and it was like, okay, so like the first Superman movie like I saw, unfortunately, was like Man of Steel, and I was like, what? I can't work with this. Like, like I can't be a fan of him after this. I don't know, and I don't want to blame like I don't want to get in that talk, but like it just
No, you
wasn't
don't
a
want to talk
movie
Man of
like
Steel?
we can, but like I was like, it was
Oh, you muted.
sorry.
No, you're good.
It was just like it was a hard movie to be like a fan of, especially at the time. It was just like okay, and then moving on. And then like there's the CW stuff, and it was like at the time they were doing anything but like bring in Superman, so it was like okay, why do I know more about Supergirl than Superman? Like it's,
That's
and then
one of my
eventually
gripes
like.
with the start of Supergirl was, and I appreciate in interviews and like the promotion at the time, they're like, listen, we're not going to focus much on Superman because this is her story. This is
And I,
Supergirl's
I agree
story.
with that.
And then the first 3 episodes, like every 5 minutes, a character is saying to Kara, being
My
like,
cousin,
"You're
your
not
cousin.
Superman." And I was just there, like, we get it. Can we move on? I just want to hear about Kara.
Yeah,
I don't need CGI Superman to fly in
or
and stop
shadows
like
or anything, anything but his
Reactron.
face.
Yeah. So it was so much better in season 2 when they finally like brought him in, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
I trust you to do your own thing. I'm like, okay, cool, finally. Of course, that's the time that they moved Supergirl from CBS to the CW, and like fully integrated her with the Arrowverse more.
right,
Um, but yeah, I have to ask you though. So it's funny to me that like you didn't consume a lot of Superman media. You knew of Superman
right.
before seeing Man of Steel, and even you were kind of like, I think this is wrong.
This ain't
I don't
Superman.
like
Like, yeah.
what were your gripes with Man of Steel watching it for the first time? I
I don't
mean,
want to speak too much because I don't remember much, but like the whole Pac Kent, like I feel like Superman would have saved his dad. Superman would not have let his dad die. Like,
mhm.
I don't know. I just that's as much as like I don't want to speak again. I don't want to talk too much because I just you can get very nitty gritty with all that, and
You loved him breaking a guy's neck. You loved him snapping Zod's.
because yeah, Superman would do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
when he clearly had, I would think a few other options, but
yeah. Yeah,
I don't.
that's oh my God, that's the one gripe that will always be with that movie, and especially after reading All-Star Superman, that's a big hope and drive for like James Gunn Superman is that it's going to be hopeful, inspiring
Right.
Superman, like the Superman that's going to the hospital to just visit, sick kids and,
Yeah.
give them a little hope and inspiration. Um, it won't be Superman moody, running
No.
away after saving an oil rig or something. Whatever he
And I
did in
get
that
the
movie.
argument that it was almost a movie about him learning the values of Superman, but I feel
Yeah.
like the point of him being Superman is that like he has those values. That's just him. Like he doesn't
Hmm.
need to learn them. That's like it's how he was raised.
Yeah, and
And so
after
it's not something he needs to develop. It's just he's going in, he's good. Like he doesn't need to understand like how to I don't know. It's
yeah.
just like I feel like he doesn't need to understand how to be Superman. He is Superman. Like
It was interesting though reading All-Star Superman, and I guess Man of Steel did pull at least one piece of dialogue from this book because from what I remember in Man of Steel, Russell Crowe's Jor-El has that whole monologue when like Clark's learning how to use his powers of like one day they will join you in the sun and everything,
mhm.
and that was dialogue pulled from issue 12 of this
Right.
series, for the most part it seemed. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, you didn't quite use it as effectively,
Yeah.
but yeah, Man of Steel, I think it's a fine movie, but yeah, it's
Like I
not.
don't even I didn't
Yeah,
rush to see it. Like I didn't see it in the theater. I just
I
happened to
did
see
not
it.
see it in theaters either. I
I think I
actually didn't
watched it
know it came
before I
out at
watched
the time.
I did like a little rewatch of like I think Man of Steel and Batman v Superman because I hadn't seen either, and it was like
Hmm.
I think maybe when the Snyder Cut was coming out, and I was just like,
Yeah,
well, I need to have some background, so let me watch these, and it was I was like, ugh, yeah, like whether you think it's a good movie or not, I think everyone can agree it's just like they're
it's
not
not Superman.
mutually liked. It's not. It's like I think at the end of the day, what makes it difficult, it's just a hard movie to be a fan of. Like
Yeah.
you can like it, but like there's no fandom around it. So it's like, okay, moving
Well,
on.
there are
Well,
the
there
Snyder
is, but yeah, yeah,
fans.
but not a
Zack
mutual
Snyder's the
fandom.
blueprint and all that.
Yeah, yeah. And so
But
finally, like when Superman and Lois came out, I was like, that show just recently ended, and I was like,
mhm.
all right, like I have a Superman now. Like this is great. Like that show, I have no major problem with that show. That show was amazing because like
Did you watch
I
it start to
was,
finish?
yeah.
I didn't. I actually didn't finish that show. Uh,
Oh,
I
I mean,
I fell off all the CW shows in like the middle of that first season, so I never
oh, I would
finished it.
definitely go back to it.
I've
Yeah,
heard it's
Superman.
like really incredible.
It's not a CW show. Like it's on CW, but like
Hmm.
it doesn't have the same problems as CW shows. I feel like as much as I love them and like grew up on them, it's like I'm
They're
not naive
dated.
enough to say they had problems. Like
They're
so,
dated now.
but
I remember going back and watching like the pilot of Arrow, and the
yeah,
dialogue feels very like, oh, this is 2012 dialogue for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, like by the end of Superman and Lois, I was like, oh my God, thank God. I'm like I'm 25, 26. I'm like I finally have a Superman. Like you know what I mean? Like I have a Superman. I can like this is my Superman,
Hmm.
and
So
I hope I could do that again in July.
Tyler Hecklin Hochin, I forget how to pronounce
Yeah.
his last name. He's your Superman. He's your guy.
If I think of Superman right now in January 25, yeah, that's what I think of.
That's a good one to have. I mean, for me, Henry Cavill had so much potential. Like he's the one
Oh yeah,
would have
I
seen while
don't think
growing
he's the
up.
problem. He acted well. Like that's he
I
just didn't have a chance.
but I love the like Christopher Reeve, even though I didn't grow up with him. I have seen those movies except for the fourth one, Quest for Peace, which is apparently
Hmm.
terrible. And like I like seeing behind the scenes interviews and stuff with him about how he really tried to like lean into the hopeful, like idealistic side of Superman.
Thanks, we get to
And
do that.
yeah. And like, I understand why there's such a love and like appreciation for Christopher Reeve even to this day. Like that's why we CGI'd him into the Flash movie for some reason.
Yeah.
Um I'll always understand that love, but I'm ready for uh David Corn Sweat and
Oh,
seeing this
totally.
new Superman. I really hope it sticks the landing because, at least
It
for
needs to.
me, a lot of James Gunn projects, like, I always love them, but then there's always like one thing in there that I'm like, why did that have to be in there? With the exception of Guardians 1 and Guardians 3. I love those movies. I really
Hmm.
don't see many flaws with those movies. I think they're just a solid watch overall. Guardians 2, I'm not the biggest fan of.
Hmm.
Um, but like Brightburn, where he did the evil Superman movie.
Right,
Have
right,
you
right.
seen that one?
I haven't seen it, but yeah, I know of it.
Like, that's a dark movie. That's a good movie. There's like one or
Yeah.
two things though. And like Peacemaker's the same deal where it's always like Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad. There's always
Yep.
one or two things that I'm like, that really needs to be in the movie. I hope Superman is like 10 out of 10, sticks the landing. It's
Totally.
everything we've wanted to see. The behind the scenes stuff that has come out really looks like we're getting that hopeful Superman that's like, you know, saving a cat out of the tree, talking to
Yeah.
kids,
The
while the
little
Justice
stuff.
League is kind
Yeah.
of on their on their own. And All-Star Superman, I do think, does a really good job with that type of Superman where, but they do, I was surprised that there were instances where Superman does kind of not lose his temper, but he's a little like he
It gets
still has
stern.
like
Yeah.
humanity a bit. Like when Samson and what's his face? Isaac, Samson, whoever the other guy was, are like flirting
Oh,
with
right.
Lois. He does the full on, hey, stay away from my girl.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. There's some human elements here
Totally.
to Superman. Um, so what did you maybe dislike about the book? We maybe touched on a few things, few issues.
Um, I think Lois. Just they didn't do much
Really?
with her.
Yeah, she is kind of sidelined in a lot of the book in retrospect.
I thought it
She
was a cool take that she's dating Superman when we start off. She's not dating Clark. And like I feel like that's not how you see it usually. I feel like
Mhm.
she's more friendly and likes Clark more than Superman. And then it's like the big reveal that Clark is Superman, but in this scenario it was more like Superman is Clark.
Yeah. And
And I was like, that's kind of cool.
it is silly though that she like can't accept the fact
She
that
won't believe
Superman
him.
is Clark Kent. She's like, "Oh, Superman, we're pretending to be Clark." And it's like,
He's like,
"No."
no, that was Batman. No, that was a robot. Just believe me. And she's like, nope. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Like, I don't know. Lois Lane, I feel like when Lois is a strong character, she should just be like, okay, great, moving on. Like, she shouldn't care.
Yeah,
Like,
I
it's
think
just
I
like,
I think I like Lois better if she's like the reporter that can figure out that Clark Kent is Superman. Like I feel like she should have connected the dots in this book because like even towards the end of the book, like that is a surprise for me that Superman does not reveal he's Clark Kent in this book to the
yeah, by the
world.
end of it now.
No, he even like he sticks with it till the very end where Jimmy's like, "Oh, even Jimmy's like, "Oh, Superman, you were pretending to be Clark Kent, so Clark must be safe at the fortress." And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Yeah, Jimmy, Clark's safe at the fortress."
Sure, like that matters at this point. Yeah.
And it's like, no, after Superman disappears, like Clark Kent is just never going to be seen again. You
Yeah,
you don't
no
think
one's
they're going
gonna
to
know where
have
Clark
some
Kent is.
questions? So I was surprised by that, but to your point, like I that's what bothered me about Lois in this book. I thought she was really great in those first three issues and like when she shows up, but she does get sidelined in retrospect, and I got bothered by the fact that she wasn't able to accept that Clark Kent is Superman. She's just very like,
Yeah.
oh, so ridiculous, so funny, haha. And I'm like, just you're a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. You should know
Yeah, yeah.
this.
Like you had to have known.
Like it's
Like
funny. It's funny when Lex Luthor can't accept it. Like have did you watch the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover for the CW?
yeah, yeah.
So I love like I know that scene gets criticized by Smallville fans because like that Superman gave up his powers and everything.
Hmm.
But I do find it very funny how Lex has like the book of, all knowing. I forgot what it was
Right,
called.
right.
And he says, he goes, imagine my surprise how on this Earth Clark Kent is Superman. Now, on my Earth, that would be ridiculous because, Kent can't see past his glasses.
So that's
And
just funny because it's like
yeah,
Lex being
it,
dorky, and it's just like, but like Lois should know, like
yeah.
like
But you even get with Lex in this book where, like, during the final confrontation and the final fight, he sees Clark Kent pull out a gravity gun and shoot him. And for a second, he's like, wait, Clark Kent, Superman? But then he dismisses it. He goes, no.
no way,
It's like just
right?
So, I mean, in main DC continuity, obviously Lois and Clark are married. They have a son, John, and
Hmm.
Lex knows that Clark Kent is Superman. That's like a thing with this modern Superman run. I'm a little behind. I know Lex like had his memories erased at some point and all of
Okay,
this. Um, but yeah, it's just funny when you see like classic Lex Luthor of like he's such a genius, but he can't accept the idea that like someone as simple as Clark Kent could actually be Superman in
right.
disguise. And this will get me into my next question. What was your favorite piece of dialogue from the book? Because for me, I love issue 5 with Lex Luthor and Superman, not Superman, Clark Kent interacting with each other. And I love how towards the end of the issue, after Parasite's been defeated and all this,
Hmm.
Lex Luthor says, he goes, "You see, Clark, that's why I like you. You're everything he's not." And it's like, I love that because it shows how Clark Kent and Superman are supposed to be two completely different characters based on how Kal-El Clark Kent portrays himself to hide a secret identity. But I just love how blind Lex Luthor is to it. Like, Superman Clark is freezing people behind Lex like out of his eyesight. He's
Right, right.
causing an earthquake quake to stop Parasite, and still he's just like, "That's why I like you, Ken. You're everything he's not. You're just a good human being."
Good
And
American boy.
Clark's like, "Yeah."
Okay, moving on. I'm leaving.
So what was the favorite piece of dialogue for you?
I think it might have been the same issue when he was like, you could have had her, Kent. Like, if you just cleaned up your clothes, stood up straight, like, but she's with him, and it's like, oh my God, like he's seeing right through it, but like he's not seeing it as a disguise. He's just like this dork from Kansas is in front of me. Like, let me just be chummy with him.
Yeah, and it is funny how like he keeps trying to turn the interview around on Clark because Clark keeps going like, I'm here to ask you questions
Right, right,
and
right.
interview you." And he goes and he keeps turning around. I will say though, one thing this book does very well with Clark Kent, um, did you pick up on all the times that Clark saves, well, I guess is a klutz. I keep using air quotes wrong in this call, I think. But he's a klutz, but it's really him as Superman saving someone's life.
Oh, maybe didn't catch that. No.
So there's a few instances that really got me. In the first issue, Clark bumps into somebody on the street while Lois is talking to Clark, and that guy's like, "Hey, jerk, watch where you're going." But then you
Oh yeah.
realize that the piece of like an air train or whatever was gonna fall on the guy, and
Oh,
Superman's
okay.
so he saved him. With Lex, he's using whatever power drill in the prison, and Clark, you see in the panel like an electrical short starts to
Uh,
happen and Clark trips on the wire and unplugs it and like the outlet bursts and Lex says he goes, "Huh, Clark, your clumsiness actually might
I
have
was like
saved me
my
from
shoes or something
electrocution."
protected me,
Yeah, and
the
like
rubber soles or something.
there was another instance later in the book that I think I'm forgetting, but I did appreciate those moments of like he's Clark Kent, but like he's using his facade to still help and save people when he sees
Right.
those issues happening. Um,
I like that.
I like that a lot. And so getting back to that issue where you're talking about how you liked Lex kind of saying like, "Oh, Lois will never go for you, all just because Superman exists in the world."
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what else did you think about that? Oh, I remember what it was. What did you think about the ending where he helps Clark escape?
Oh yeah, with like the boat at like the end of the it was like
Hmm. Well, there's a part before that I loved because it's not in the movie, and I was like, "That's
okay.
actually hilarious." What part do you think I'm talking about?
The monkey?
The monkey.
Okay.
The
I
monkey was hilarious to me.
was like, why is there a monkey?
And it was so funny to me because, the planet is the one that broke the story about Lex Luthor, and that's what got him put on death row. Also, side note, very, funny how in DC canon, like Lex Luthor is like compared to Attila the Hun and like the worst people on the planet.
Right,
Um,
right.
and it was weird though. I feel like the book like weirded me out a bit where it's like, Lex, you hold these people in high regard. And I'm like, he does? Like I feel like Lex Luthor would have a line. He just hates the idea
Yeah.
of an alien invading, but it's like, really? Lex Luthor loves Attila the Hun and and
That's a choice.
the guy from the 1940s that's also listed in
Yeah,
that
that
issue.
guy.
I was like, Lex Luthor appreciates him. Okay. Uh, I just like the idea of Lex Luthor being like completely anti-alien, anti-Superman, but
Hmm.
like because he wants to be like the best of humanity. Um,
Right.
but what's so funny is with the baboon at the end of that issue, because after the prison collapses, Lex is helping Clark escape, reveals that Lex could leave at any time he wants, but he's
Hmm.
there to prove something. And I love how he's like, listen, you're just here so I can, get through the next step of my plan to like, take down Superman once and for all. And part of that plan is completely discrediting your paper. Just imagine how ridiculous your story is going to sound when you say, and then Lex Luthor shook hands with a baboon dressed as Superman and opened a passage in the bottom of his cell to escape the prison. And then it's actually there, to show it.
It's a
And
good
I'm like,
plan.
it's hilarious because he's like, yeah, nobody's gonna believe that in your story. They're gonna say
My
you're
God.
off your rocker high or something. And I just found that hilarious because, like, yeah, he's got a point there.
Yeah, I mean, can't argue with that.
That would be my favorite, like, comedic piece of
Yeah, yeah.
dialogue in this book. What else did you maybe like or dislike about the book?
Yeah. I think the whole like balance of like it had the small like Superman moments, but then it also got I complained about the comic bookiness earlier, but like I think it's cool how you can have like the dichotomy of like he's fighting this time monster with Superman in the future, and then it goes straight into like Pa Kent dying. And it's
Hmm.
like it didn't feel like Whiplash. It was just like that's Superman. Like he has the smallest moments and the biggest moments, and like that's it's what he deals with.
Yeah,
And
it did feel a lot like an anthology book, similar to how you said
yeah,
before, where like each issue is kind of its own contained story in
right.
some aspects. But
And like he's fighting that robot to save Lois, and then all of a sudden he goes and helps the kid on the roof,
mhm.
and it's just like that's Superman's life. Like he deals with also any type of problem almost. Like he can handle it all, and that's like kind of his shtick. And I
Yeah,
think,
no, you
sorry, I was gonna say I'm hoping that's what Gunn is talking about when he's like the tone,
go. Hmm.
because I think that's kind of just Gunn in general. Like he can have like the smallest like heartfelt moments, but also like the wackiest, craziest sci-fi moments at the same time. So I think I would like to think that's what he's talking about when he's like, this is the blueprint, not necessarily like plot points, but like
Hmm.
the theme of the new movie. And so if that's what he's talking about, I think we're in for a good movie
Yeah.
because
And
that's what you want to see with Superman.
yeah, and I really hope because they've shown in the trailer, and behind the scenes things how different Clark Kent and Superman are going to look, where it's really going to be like
I
two
love when they
different
do that.
characters. And it looks so good. Um,
Yeah,
I hope, especially after reading this book, we do get those little details of like Clark saving people, even
yeah.
when, he's, acting like a klutz. Because
Hmm.
another thing in this book is uh it really did a good job of having small details to set stuff up later. Because at the start of issue 10, Superman like stops a runaway train, and one person on the train is like calling somebody, being like, I'm on my way there. Please don't do anything, don't hang up the phone. And you find out that he was talking to the girl on the ledge
Right, right,
later
right.
on in the book. And that's where Superman's like, your doctor really did get held up. Trust me, it's all gonna be okay.
Hmm.
And there was, in issue 2, Superman has like the line to Superbot or whatever they're called in the Fortress of
Right,
Solitude,
right.
Superbot 7, please report to maintenance. And it all comes back in the end where it's like, oh yeah, Lex hacked it or whatever to get
Yeah,
the
yeah.
formula to get superpowers in the end. I like those little details like having impact and like they build
Yeah,
to
showing
something in
like
the end.
continuity.
One thing I think the movie did better is the movie gives Lex more of a come to terms and understanding moment in the end.
Yeah.
Because I really like the ending where he has Superman's powers and he starts to like realize he could have done so much more if he
Like his
spent
mind
his
is
time.
opening. That whole
Yeah,
those panels were good. Yeah.
yeah, it was phenomenal. What did you think about those panels? Because it's a little different in the movie, so I'm curious about your thoughts before I say mine.
I almost didn't see what was happening at first. Like I kind of that was one of those sections where I was like, okay, let me read that again, and then I kind of like realized like okay, like he's almost like reaching new levels of understanding now, like seeing the world from Clark's perspective,
Yeah,
like what he has to deal with, like where his mind goes, and like I was like, oh, okay, that's like kind of interesting, like for once, like Lex understanding Superman, like, and it was like, and then I read this after finishing the book, like trying to just like reading up on like what other people thought, just having an idea. And I did read that like the difference between the movie and the book that like in the book he just punches him out, but in the movie he's like he lets Lex respond and be like, "Yeah, you're right. I could have been better."
and
And I
that
think
bothered me in the
that just
book.
makes it more interesting. And
Yeah,
so I'm like, okay.
and
Like I didn't
so
mind the punch, but then once I read what happened in the movie, I was like, "Oh, that's better." I was like,
yeah, so in the movie, he has that same like come to God moment, and
right,
Superman says, because in the book it's very like, ah, I stopped you,
right.
evildoer,
Lex
and
is down.
he punches him out. But in the movie, he has that same hard-hitting line of, let's be honest, Lex, if you really wanted to save the world, I wasn't standing in your way. You could have done it at any time. And Lex does just kind of like slump over, like on his knees in defeat, just kind of like, yeah, you're right. I
Mhm.
wasted my life, basically. And so, what's very interesting in the book, Dr. Quintum, so the rainbow coat guy, he, Superman entrusts his DNA with him to make like a
Right,
new Superman, uh, basically like a child for him and Lois that they weren't able to have before. Because unlike Maine's continuity, where Superman and Lois can have John Kent, they can have a son.
right, right.
This version is, oh, our DNA is not compatible. We could have never had kids. Um,
Okay,
and so he entrusts to Dr. Quintum his entire genetic code to, basically make a new Superman for like the next world, if you will.
right.
In the movie, Dr. Quintum still was never able to figure out Superman's genetic code, but Lex Luthor was. And
Oh, all right.
so one of the final scenes of the animation is Lex Luthor having like one of his final visits before he actually goes on death row for real this time is
Right.
with Dr. Quintum, where he gives Dr. Quintum the entire genetic code to make a new Superman.
Oh,
Um,
oh,
and it's kind of his like understanding of like after this whole story of I don't, the world doesn't need Superman. We shouldn't be reliant on an alien to like save us. And Superman's the problem, you know, basically just distracting everybody from being the best they could be as humanity. He
right.
realizes after seeing the world through Superman's eyes, he's like, you know what? The world does benefit from having someone like Superman in it. Um, and I think that's a lot more interesting. I always find it more interesting when like a villain can be not redeemed, but at least like realize they were wrong and like
Right.
accept.
Yeah, I
And in the
agree.
book, you don't really get that. You just get, like you said, he gets knocked out, and then Dr. Quintum says at like Superman's memorial service, he was just kind of like depressed, and it's like,
Yeah.
all right.
Like, okay.
Yeah, and that was another key difference. I was like, I don't know if I really like that change. I think the movie streamlined it and made it a bit
Oh,
more of an
totally. From what you're telling me,
impactful
yeah.
story. Yeah, and all the other beats, for the most part, outside those issues that I said they kind of trim off, are the same. Superman gets poisoned. He spends the day
Right.
with Lois. He fights Solaris, and in the end, he flies into the sun to save it.
Hmm.
The book does a bit of a better job of explaining how he can repair the sun, because I guess they explain like his consciousness is like turning into his cells or something.
Right. Like
It
the
was a
whole
little hard to
conversation with
follow.
Jor-El. Yeah.
Yeah, but I did like that's not in the movie. Is Superman like what he sees before he dies, like where he kind of has like
Oh, okay.
the best I could compare it to is like Harry in Deathly
That
Hallows talking
void.
to
Yeah.
Dumbledore. It's like his like in between, like his I'm about to
Right,
die.
right.
This is what I'm seeing before I die.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, who wound up being your favorite character in the book?
I think Superman or Lex. Probably one and two. Superman, then Lex.
Any surprise favorites?
No, I mean, I think the Daily Planet crowd were the Daily Planet crowd. Like they are and feel like most iterations, they're just there to be saved and like be a nuisance to Clark. um, yeah. Otherwise, the whole project. Yeah, I liked like the bizarre. I'm forgetting his name. Um,
Zabaro.
Zabaro. I was like, this is kind of funny, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
like
I
the
was.
bizarre, like not Bizarro Superman, but like the Superman of Bizarro World. It's like
Yeah,
it was like, okay, it's like two different ways of seeing it. It's like he's so intelligent and everything that like he's like almost like a nothing to the Bizarro people, and it's just
yeah,
like that's a different take rather than just being the opposite of Superman.
yeah. And like that was a thing I thought about with this book is like, what's the commentary underneath everything to like make
Right.
this book so insightful and everything. And with Zabaro, I was just kind of like, okay, I kind of get what they're trying to do here, but not really. It's fun, I guess,
Yeah, I
but
didn't get much either. Just thought it was fun. I didn't think
like
it
I
was
was
like it was just
curious
a
if
take I
maybe there
never
was
thought
going to
of.
be a deeper meaning of like, maybe this is how, the world would view Superman if, he acted differently or something. But no, it was
All
just
right.
kind of, eh. I wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
big fan of Bizarre World.
No,
That's
no, I mean, neither. I just thought it was like a character I'd never heard of before, I'd never seen before. I don't know if he's anywhere else out there in the DC universe, but I was just like, oh, okay. Rather than just like, the typical zombie looking Bizarro Superman, it's like, what would Superman be to like the people of Bizarro world? And I was like,
yeah.
okay. So,
Yeah. Surprise favorite characters for me though were Dr. Quintum because he's actually like fleshed out in this book. I like how
mhm.
he's kind of like the adventurer scientist who's like gonna pave the
Right,
way
right.
for humanity forward. He negotiates like the Candor, talks and everything later in the book. And Jimmy Olsen, I know a lot of people love Jimmy Olsen. This is like
Hmm.
one of those books that I feel like Jimmy Olsen, even though I wasn't a big fan of the Jimmy Olsen issue, I did like that this book and series gave him like some of those heroic moments of like Superman to save me, it's my turn to step up. So like,
No,
he
yeah.
stops Superman from like destroying the world if he
Hmm.
goes too far. He also stops he also saves everybody with the blimp and everything, hacking it with his super watch to like get them away from all the bizarros. I like that they gave some Jimmy Olsen some
Yeah,
good moments. Um,
I
one
agree.
thing one thing I'm gonna pose a question to you. Um, what did you think about the whole parasite debacle in the prison?
Just the fact that he showed up.
Yeah, and wanted to steal all of Superman's power.
I think it was kind of funny that they were like, Clark, why is he after you? And like Clark kind of be like, I don't know. Like he just said like that sort of dynamic was fun, but like I think it like I more appreciated the conversation of just like Clark and Lex talking. If it was just a whole issue of that, I would have been like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
But like I get it. You need the comic book part of it too. Like you need the alien or the monster to outrun. And I was like, I don't know if you did need it, but like I get why it's there.
Well, one thing that always bothered me ever since I watched the animation
Hmm.
is part of me always wonders if I'm probably thinking too deep into it though. Part of me always wonders if maybe Parasite could have been a solution a bit to Superman dying by sapping away the excess solar
The extras,
radiation
yeah,
in his system. That's always something that's
would
bothered
have
me.
been yeah, it would have been an interesting like
Yeah.
they did. I feel like they didn't like. I feel like the whole issue dedicated to like going over our options maybe would have
Hmm.
been appreciated. Where it's just like you're in the DC universe, there's got to be something that could do something for him.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? So it's like I get they had like the Kryptonians that can shrink down, and they went to his cells to see if they could do anything, and it was like, nope, we can't do anything. And I was like, I get it. You want the book to be like he's dying and no answer to it. Like I
I
get you want that storyline, but like just explain to me why there's no other option. Maybe I don't know.
I will say the miniature Kandor Kryptonians going into his bloodstream were a little silly to me because I'm like, what are they doing? Are they just like
It was totally
hugging
silly. Yeah,
hugging
like
his
what are you gonna do?
cells?
Like,
They're like, we're doing all we can, but we can't stop your cells from exploding. It's like, well, what exactly are you trying to do?
what
I
would you have
did
done?
I did like how, there's a big aspect of like that legacy of Superman moving
Yeah,
on,
definitely.
where you have the Superman from the future, but then also like even those miniature Supermans, it's like you now have a purpose at such a microscopic scale. You can actually like cure human diseases
Right.
that normal doctors and normal human methods can't stop because they can
Hmm.
basically go in and kill cancer cells themselves. Like I
Right.
like that idea, but yeah, it was just funny seeing like them hugging Superman cells, being like, "We can't stop them from bursting. We're so sorry we failed you." It's like, okay,
Yeah, it was. I get like when you do a shared universe, like any comic book universe, you need to acknowledge that you're in a shared universe. And like I feel like I get annoyed by like I get this wasn't supposed to be that, but like you acknowledge that the Justice League existed at one point by seeing the Bizarro versions. Like they're out there. He's talked about Batman. And he's like, I think just a couple more like just not even like you don't even have to show it. Just show that Superman like kind of went around and took his like got a second opinion almost from like his diagnosis and like just I don't know, going around, maybe seeing a cameo or two so that he talked to someone.
And that's where I'm a bit 50-50 on it too, because I feel like especially in like the age of the MCU, the DCEU, where like, it seems like especially the general audience, like they're not happy if they get a cameo. Like people are like, "Oh, Tobey Maguire wasn't in Multiverse of Madness, so that movie wasn't great." It's like,
Yeah,
I
I
feel
mean,
like
no.
we're so like especially like the general audiences are so interested in just seeing those cameos, those pop-ups of like a shared universe. But I'm a bit 50-50 on it because I do like how this book is very streamlined as a Superman story. So it's easy to read.
Right.
You don't have to know everything going on with Batman or this and that.
Totally.
But it did bug me that like we're mentioning that Batman's around, we're mentioning Robin, we're showing on Bizarre World that the Justice League does exist, and like Superman's dying. But and like he at one point says Batman is one of my best friends in the world, but
But you didn't talk to him?
he
Like,
doesn't talk to him. He doesn't say anything to the Justice League. Like he
hmm
doesn't even like have a conversation being like and even with Lois, like I did think it was interesting. Like on the one hand, I get it. It's him wanting to choose to live out his days as he sees fit. He's going to
Yeah,
do everything
totally.
he can to the last minute. He doesn't want anyone to spend time in sorrow, if you will, which
Hmm
real world wise, there are people like that that just want
Oh,
to,
totally.
you know,
They're Irish goodbye. Like they
yeah.
just
And like, so on the one hand, I appreciate that streamlined and like side of it. But on the other hand, I'm just like, if you're going to mention them though, where are they? Why didn't you go to
yeah,
Batman
like
towards the end being like, hey,
half an
just so you
issue,
know,
couple pages.
I'm
Like,
dying.
yeah, that would have been a cool conversation, I feel like,
Yeah,
I feel like Batman always figured he'd probably, wouldn't outlive Superman. So like to maybe have that dynamic, it would be, I don't know.
yeah. And so with all of these thoughts in mind, because I have my two last questions because we're going to talk a little bit about the movie.
Okay.
What would you rate this book series out of 10?
I think it's tricky, because there's definitely parts where I'm like, not eye rolling, but like, what are we doing here?
Hmm.
Like, but then there's parts that are just like A plus Superman. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're just, and it's like, so some, I think around like a seven.
I'm a solid 7. I
Oh, okay, good.
I feel like 7, and it's funny. It seems like anytime like the guest on the show like gives a number rating, mine's always at least like the same or like one level above. But
Right,
I'm
right.
I'm at a solid 7.
Yeah.
I don't think the filler, extra issues are drag it down too much that it would be like a mediocre book, so like a 5,
No,
6.
no. Yeah.
But, they weigh it down enough that I'm like, all right, this isn't the greatest story I've ever read.
Yeah,
Like
I can't be like,
in my mind, Superman stories that I love more, like the one that I really love, which I have over there, is Superman Unchained, which some people aren't the biggest fan because that's New 52 Superman. So it's like not, classic Superman that a lot of people love. Like New 52 Superman's a little more on the darker side and he doesn't act
hmm
like Superman should in a lot of instances.
right.
But with this book, it was written by Scott Snyder, drawn by Jim Lee. So art is breathtaking and the story is good. And what I really liked about the book is Scott Snyder, he explains in his director's cut issue that he wanted to really show a story of Superman, like where it's him as like the difference between accomplishing his idealistic goals and practical goals. And the way he
Okay.
accomplished that is he introduced another being from like a planet near Krypton or similar to Krypton. So
hmm
it's another creature that, or another person that was from this world, got sent to Earth as the planet was dying, gets Superman's same powers, but he arrived 50 years before Superman. And unlike Superman, who chooses to be like the idealistic, doing the best for humanity, not wanting to get too involved, like not really having the interests of the world at heart as opposed to just one
Hmm.
nation. This being, his name is Wraith. He lands in America, and like the American government gets a hold of him and like raises
Oh,
him.
okay.
And so he becomes like, my duty is to my country above all else.
Mm,
And it's a very interesting commentary on like the idea of truth, the old Superman slogan, truth, justice, and the American way. Now it's truth,
right.
justice, and a better tomorrow because, you know, America can be fun these days.
Yeah, yeah.
But so it's a very interesting commentary and exploration, but it doesn't have those filler issues of like we're going to Bizarro World. So
Right.
I feel like this book could have benefited from more of that streamlined approach. So I feel like, yeah, solid seven. It has really great moments, like the last will and testament of Superman in
That was
issue
awesome.
10,
Yeah.
where he's like explaining his logic. Yeah, it was so good. And you see him sweating because he's finally starting to like really feel the effects of like
Yeah, yeah.
dying. Such a good story. So yeah, I would read, you know, one, two, three, five, and then just skip to 10, 11, 12. I don't even think issue 9 with the Kryptonians was all that needed.
Yeah, that
Um,
seems like similar, just kind of like
it
comic
was
book
an
trip.
episodic
Yeah.
tale. Um, but yeah, getting into the movie, just to like talk about it a little bit, what did you think of the Superman trailer?
I mean, I was excited by it. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, bring on July. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like it's Superman, and it's so difficult. And DC is like, in terms of movies right now, is at such a bad place.
Did
And
you
it's
watch
like
Creature Commandos?
I did, and I loved it. I was like, all right, cool, we're in this.
I thought it
Like,
was all right. I
I
liked
mean, yeah,
it.
it's Creature Commandos. Like, it's never gonna be
Yeah,
my favorite thing in the world, but it's just like, okay, good.
interesting
One
way to
check,
start the
James Gunn.
universe.
Like, yeah. Like, oh yeah, when he revealed the whole like timeline of like these are the projects I'm working on, I was like, that got me worried last year when he was. I was
Mhm.
like, okay, this is your timeline. Like, it doesn't even look like we're aiming towards the Justice League here, and it's like whatever you want to do here. Like, he wants to do more of like different kinds of stories just within a DC universe rather than like a through line.
Mhm.
Which I'm like, okay, that's different. Like, that's a good way to differentiate yourself from Marvel because Marvel is really sticking with that through line.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm on board. Like, just because you're James Gunn, that's pretty much the only reason I'm hanging on right now.
Yeah.
And just
And
because
I
I
don't
want like
mind
a
skipping over the origins because like
no, that's fine. Yeah,
I
I'm
feel like
no
one of the
problem with
best
that.
introductions the MCU did without having to do like an origin was Black Panther, where he just kind of shows up in Civil War and he, in like
And that's
a
fine. Yeah,
sentence, explains who he is, and we're on board. We jump in, and then his solo movie explains more of
right.
Wakanda and his
That
culture.
makes sense. Yeah, that
So I don't mind if the DCU, you know, does the whole, yeah, we just want to
is
tell these different
established. Yeah,
stories. Everything exists already. We're jumping in. But yeah, it is a little interesting some of the projects we're getting, like Clayface the movie before we get a Batman movie.
yeah. Like, I think he's more just on the focus of like, can we tell cool stories in this universe rather than like telling a single plot thread.
Yeah.
You know, like kind of like what Star Wars is almost doing at this point, where it's just like, let's tell cool different stories just in this fun world rather than like have a through line.
Yeah. And Skeleton Crew is awesome. Like
Yeah, that's what I
when
mean.
they
Like,
do those offshoots, it's like, oh, that was a pleasant surprise. Sometimes the shows though, like Mandalorian season 3, I do not like. Um but like Andor, Skeleton Crew, like
yeah,
those were awesome. Um and a big thing with Superman though, looking at it, because the idea is the Justice League's going to already exist, and it appears that
a
they're
form of it.
drawing
Yeah,
yeah, it appears they're drawing from Justice League like International, so you have Guy Gardner,
right, right.
and all that. And Superman's not going to be like the first superhero, but he's going to be the first superhero to show heroes how to do a better
Be
job and
heroes.
like
Yeah,
direct them to like, you know, forward, because like, you know, he's got like the Kingdom Come style logo. So it's a little more of like in Kingdom Come, it's Superman trying to like show all these, you know, heroes that have really just become destructive and gone off the rails, all these new generations. It's him kind of like coming back in as the old guard, like, no, this is how you're supposed to, you know,
hmm,
be a hero type deal.
right.
I have to reread Kingdom Come. It's been a while. Um, but you know, with the movie, I really hope it does that. There when they released that first teaser, like the teaser
Mhm.
for the trailer, I did think it looked very CW in terms of cinematography.
Like the poster, or oh
There's
no, the
that,
that quick clip. Yeah, I know what you're
yeah,
talking about.
and there's that one shot of like everybody in the Daily Planet like looking up and like it's got like that green, almost Superman and Lois filter on it, and I was like,
Mm-mm.
I don't know if I love the cinematography in this teaser. And then the trailer came out. I go, okay, this looks a lot better. I'm more hopeful. I'm rooting for the movie. I'm cautiously optimistic. The two things I'm probably most on the fence about is what's his Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor,
Okay.
um and uh Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. Those are the two things I'm on the fence about because I love Nicholas Hoult. I think he's a phenomenal actor. But when I think of Lex Luthor, I think of usually one or two versions of Lex Luthor, or when they're one and the same. I think of sniveling, sleazy Lex Luthor, kind of like the John Cryer one, where he's
Hmm.
got, or like the DC animated movie universe, where he's voiced by
Okay.
Rainn Wilson, and he's kind
Oh.
of like, yeah, he's voiced by. He does a really good job too, but he's
Okay.
like,
Yeah, I gotta look into that.
oh, the DC animated movie universe is really good. Um, and like it's kind of that snivelly Lex Luthor of like
Like
he
Weasley.
yeah, he feels he's better than everyone, but like when push comes to shove, if he gets into a fight, like he gets defeated like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah,
But
but
he
he's
is a genius. Um, I like that side of Lex Luthor, but I also like the side of Lex Luthor that like I feel like this comic shows or like the Justice League animated series and other versions of Lex Luthor have shown where he can be like the tough human who like he's
yeah,
gonna
like
stand his
pose a threat.
ground, nothing intimidates him, like he really like he'll stare Superman in the face and be like, what are you gonna do? Like,
Hmm.
and so Nicholas Hoult, I'm very curious to see how his portrayal is going to look because Nicholas Hoult does remind me a lot of like Jesse Eisenberg, just in the sense of like he's got a younger looking face. He's not like
Yeah.
an older, grizzled Lex Luthor. Like honestly, what's his face? The guy who was Abraham in The Walking Dead. Um, what's his name? But
Uh,
the one who played Lex Luthor in
right.
Superman Lois. From what I've seen, he looked awesome and acted awesome
And
as
he's
Lex Luthor.
intimidating. Like
I think his
he
name's
poses a
Michael.
threat to Superman.
Superman and Lois. What's his name? It's like because he also I know he does a little voicing in Invincible. Cast is Michael Cudlitz. Yeah,
Yeah,
he looked like he did an awesome job. I do have to watch the
totally.
show because it even looks like they did Doomsday Justice, which was cool.
Yeah,
Little interesting that he was a Bizarro that turned into Doomsday. But it's its own story, which I do appreciate. Um,
yeah.
I know I fell off after Crisis or around Crisis. I think I stopped. I think I stopped after maybe after he found out that that guy in season one was his brother or something. I don't remember.
Hmm.
I'll get back to it. But for the Superman movie coming out, I really hope it's Six Lang. I hope Nicholas Hoult. I'm cautiously optimistic. I hope he blows me away. And then I just question Guy Gardner's haircut.
I mean,
I
yeah.
don't I don't I don't like how Nathan Fillion looks as Guy Gardner. I
You know,
I
James
don't
Gunn's
like
got
it.
his buddies. They have to be in his movies.
Well, I just would have
And Nathan
rather
Fillion, great, but
yeah.
like,
I would have rather Nathan Fillion just have his hair but dyed orange or dyed
oh, you
red.
don't like the bowl cut?
I don't like the bowl cut. I think it looks really goofy, which is
I
probably
think
the
he's
intent
supposed
they're
to.
going for. Like this is a Guy Gardner that Batman would punch out in the face, but like I don't like it. I and
I think
Ethan
that's the
Phil
vibe you want from him because I think he's gonna
yeah,
like of this Justice League International. I think he's gonna be the like the cocky guy who's
he's
like
gonna
who's
be
not
the
gonna like want
asshole.
to listen to
Yeah.
Superman. He's. I think it seems like from what we're seeing that like Mr. Terrific I think is gonna turn like he's gonna be like yeah we are I think we are a bunch of assholes like
Hmm.
because they seem like a very corporate Justice League too
Yes.
because they have the matching suits and it's like okay like I got the hints of that and so I think it is yeah like you were saying it's gonna be Superman convincing them that like you're working for like the man you're not working for the better good like the greater good
Hmm.
like sort of like the whole like Civil War argument
Yeah.
at least in the MCU where it's like you can't just listen to this guy like you can't
No.
just work for this guy you got to do what we think is good like if people don't like that oh well like we'll let the city sink like you know what I mean like
And that's funny because that's what Superman is in The Dark Knight Returns, where he's just like he just does like Reagan's bidding, and he's just is like, yeah, I'm a servant of the United States as a hero.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I'm really curious for the movie. I really hope it's a 10 out of 10 because honestly, it probably needs to be to jumpstart this universe. Um,
especially in WB's eyes, I think.
yeah.
I think if it doesn't make sub 800 million, I think it's like they're gonna think it's a failure.
Yeah. And that's
And I think,
it's really tough the world we live in now when it comes to like these superhero movies where like I feel like they're no longer seen like in the way that like 2008 Iron Man was seen where it's like this special thing that oh my God it worked. Like now it there's such a
or
high
it doesn't now.
bar.
Yeah, it's like,
Fan expectations are always like, you know, sometimes very justified. Man of Steel.
oh yeah,
But other instances it's just like okay, I feel like you're focusing on the wrong things here.
yeah.
Um,
It's just a different time, I think. I think COVID made everyone kind of a little more critical
yeah.
about movies. Like, not everyone's willing to go anymore. So I think now people are kind of looking at every sort of movie with a more of a keener eye. Like, do I have to go see this right away?
I gotta be honest
Because
with
I
you,
think it's like
I can't stand going to the movie theater as much anymore just because
I love it. Like I love that like
I
crowd
love
hype
it.
and
I
like
feel
I
like
love it.
audiences are so much more openly like disrespectful these days. I feel like
Oh,
every
I mean,
time I
yeah,
go
that
to a movie
sucks.
now, I have a bad experience where somebody's talking on a phone, somebody is like being obnoxious.
Yeah.
There's like one movie theater I go to where like if you fully recline back, like, I had like a guy, he'd be putting like his shoes on the head of my chair. I'm like, dude,
Oh my
do
God.
you mind? Like, what the heck? And like I'll never forget like there's a recent movie I went to where like somebody actually made a phone call in the movie theater, like not answering one, like made one. Um
Right.
it's just I feel like theater etiquette has completely gone out the window. And it just
hmm
like when I saw The Batman in theaters, I
hmm
I had like this couple next to me and the girl was on her phone with the brightness like fully up, like
Oh
for the
my God.
majority of the movie. And I was just there like, are you serious? Like you're here opening night.
Yeah. That happened to my dad and I. We saw Wakanda Forever, and it was like the very calm scene of Shuri and Namor talking when he
Mm.
brings Shuri down to his city. And it's like, okay, you need to pay attention. Like this is a very important scene, and like it's no action, so it's not like stuff blowing up and loud where it wouldn't have mattered. It's like I want to hear these two people talk and hear what they have to say. And this baby is just wailing, and it's Thursday night, like not even
I'll
Friday night. It's Thursday night. Like you don't like normal people don't even know it's playing on Thursday night. Like you know what I mean? So it's like, how are
mhm.
you here? And
I'll
then
never
like,
forget Infinity War opening night. A
oh
baby
my God,
started crying during the opening title sequence.
oh
Uh,
my God,
And for a split second there, I was like, is this part of the movie? Is there a baby crying in the because like it was during the logo playing and finally
oh
like somebody got up and it's like, "Are you serious?" And like the whole crowd started like basically like yelling at that person and they
it's
had to
crazy.
leave the theater with their kid.
I mean,
Um
yeah, like
yeah.
it sucks. Like you want to watch the movie too,
Yeah.
but like you got to know what you're dealing with.
Sonic the Hedgehog was the recent experience because like also like I feel like parents just don't tell their kids like, "Hey, you got to be quiet in the theater." Like other
Oh
people are
yeah, I
trying to
don't
watch the
think
movie.
some people care anymore. They're just
Sonic
gonna
the
let their kid do
Hedgehog
whatever.
I saw, which like it didn't bug me because I really loved Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and it like
hmm
I was really like into the movie. It really blew me away. But there was a point where like there's a big battle and then there's like a heart to heart moment, but I guess the kids are still riled up from the big battle that just happened that
Oh
they
yeah.
keep talking and like they're being loud and I'm like, "Okay, I'm trying to tune you out, but you're kind of a little loud here." So, hopefully nobody experiences that during Superman when it comes out in
Yeah,
July.
I
I'd like to
really
be
hope
able to
so.
appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. It's one really want to have my full attention towards. It's
Yeah.
just, it's very wild, like going into this year. It's like before, like around Endgame time, and even before that, like MCU movies were surefire billion-dollar moneymakers.
Yep.
Like it wasn't even a question. I remember like watching discussions going into like 2023 and like just like podcasts and stuff, and people are like, "Oh, how do you think Ant-Man's gonna do?" And oh, $1 billion, $1 billion. Ant-Man's gonna make $1 billion. Kang's in it.
Kang's in
Okay,
it,
yeah,
and
I
Kang, nothing's gonna go wrong with Kang, surely.
yeah, in the real world, yeah, like, and I'm like, yeah, 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 this is the start of it. Like everyone's gonna want to see Kang, and then
Hmm.
that movie comes out. It had a great opening weekend, but then everyone who saw it opening weekend told everyone else it sucked,
Hmm.
and then it makes I don't know, 400 million, I think it made. And
Yeah,
then that kind of just set the tone for the rest of the year. Like Guardians did well just because I think people like Guardians.
And Guardians was actually like a phenomenal movie.
Yeah, right. That helps.
It was like a nice epilogue for the Guardian story post Endgame.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
I will say
And then
it was wild to me that I got like notification on my phone. By the way, tickets for Captain America: Brave New World are are on sale. I'm like,
right,
oh, I didn't realize this was coming out in like less than 4 weeks.
yeah, and like that too. Like people like it's up in the air. I feel like we have no idea how that movie's gonna do, and like that's like I'm a big MCU fan. That's kind of what we got me on board and all this. And like it's a scary time right now. And I
Yeah.
think the fact that we don't know how a Captain America movie is gonna do is like what are we living in? So like if I would hope that people like realize this is a new universe for
Hmm.
DC at least. Because I mean, we all know like Aquaman 2, Joker, Blue Beetle, like their last few outings were not anything special, but again, none of them were Superman.
Yeah.
So I hope people understand that. I hope the general public understands that because it's just, especially 2 weeks before Fantastic Four at this point.
Yeah.
It's also like I don't know who I'm more worried for. Like, you know what I mean? I think it might just be sinking ship for both of them. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think Gunn's gonna move it. But so it might be up to Marvel to say like, hey, Fantastic Four is coming out in November now. But I don't think they don't want to do that either.
Yeah.
So I think it's a
Well,
very interesting year for the whole genre. I think it's just
and I feel like this is a critical year for the genre.
yeah. Because then like at this point, at least for MCU, it's like we're going into Avengers after this. So it's like if you have a sour note going into Avengers, it's like you're gonna make a $400 million movie and it's gonna make no money. And it's like, then what do we do?
It's like the Defenders thing, because the one thing I'll always think about is that Defenders relied very heavily on Iron Fist season one being like a smash hit, and
Yeah.
Iron Fist season one was like 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was just this slag of a series that it was tough to like sit through. And then he's like the main driving force outside Daredevil in the
So
Defenders, and
it's
I was
like,
like, ooh, and that's why the Defenders kind of was just
yeah,
average overall. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Fantastic Four, I definitely think is a big movie. Captain America: Brave New World, we'll see how it goes because like Red Hulk's in it. The one that I am probably very surprisingly excited for after the trailer dropped is Thunderbolts. That
oh
one
yeah,
looks really unique and cool. It does have that like ominous, like, ooh, what's kind of going on here
gritty, yeah,
vibe.
like it's
I,
still
I'm
fun.
I'm very curious to see how that movie pans out because the trailer has me very interested because even like the tone, the visuals, it does look like a very like it looks like we're getting back to that Winter Soldier energy of
Yeah,
like, okay, this is more of a tactical movie and there's some mystery going on here. So yeah, we'll see. But
yeah, it's just,
any other thoughts on All-Star Superman or the Superman movie coming out?
I hope we get a win. I hope this is a big new start to like something great. And I
Yeah.
think if anyone can do it, Gunn can.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And I think he's proven himself plenty of times now. And it's if he's going off this book of of how it defines Superman and what Superman is capable of, I think we're good.
And it looks like he
And
might even be pulling in some story elements because it looks like Solaris is in the trailer at one
the
point.
big
Like,
pink thing in the background, yeah, yeah,
yeah. So unless maybe that's Solaris, who knows? But yeah, I think what's really going to be the best part of that movie as a closing thought is I really think David Corn Sweat and Rachel Brosnahan as Superman and Lois, I think they're really going to have a good dynamic
right.
from what we see in the trailer and just knowing I've seen Rachel Brosnahan in a few things. David Cornsweet, I haven't really seen in anything.
Yeah,
I
no,
know
me
he was in
neither.
Twisters. I know he was in like Pearl or something. But they have the looks from the trailer and the behind the scenes stuff I've seen. I'm rooting for like those two, and I feel like they have gotten a lot of the castings right, like Jimmy
Totally.
Olsen and everything.
Yeah,
So I hope it sticks the landing. I really
that's
do.
what I mean. Like I think what they need to get, like Superman's a dork.
Yeah,
Like I think some people don't understand that Superman is a boy, at the end of the day is a boy from Kansas.
yeah.
He's not like Lois is supposed to be more confident than him. That's like the
Hmm.
fun of their dynamic. Like Lois is more willing to go run into stuff than he is.
Yeah.
And it's like I think that dynamic is great. That's what makes them like the dynamic duo. And it's like if you hold on to that, like I like the whole idea of like he oversells the Clark aspect of it. He's hunched over wearing big clothes like with the curly hair and the trail. Like I like that.
Hmm.
And then I just so I think like you said, from what we have, he's doing a good job. And I think as long as we're going into that, I think we'll be good.
And I think that's the perfect closing note to
Yeah.
wrap this episode. So now I'll do my outro script here. Thank you once again for visiting your local Comic Con. If you liked today's discussion, please feel free to check out other episodes we've done. All episodes of the podcast are available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud, with new episodes dropping every Monday at midnight. Please feel free to subscribe to the show and follow my socials at Local Comic Con for clips, what we're reading in the future, and more fun. If you'd like to support the show, I encourage you to subscribe to our Patreon to gain access to behind the scenes content and other resources for both reading and digital creation. Thank you so much again for visiting, and I'll see you the next time. Any closing farewells, Mike?
Yeah, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. We'll see what happens.
Truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. With that, we close.